As a researcher, I'm curious, what was the most surprising reveal that you have come across when, creating a report like this or contributing to a report like this? Like for you, out of all of these items that we discussed, what was the most surprising for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I think some of the surprises I thought might happen, the surprise was maybe the scale. So in
Right.
terms of data gaps, we knew there were going to be data gaps.
Yes.
The data was going to be patchy and imperfect. I didn't know there would be to this level. Some of these vessels that we were trying to identify in the IMO registry didn't even have information like the length of it, which surely is quite a standard piece of information.
Yeah.
How big is this boat was
Yeah.
not available for all these vessels. And obviously the ownership information being missing for 2/3 of the
Yeah.
fishing fleet was quite surprising. There was a few, I think, surprises that, and of course I work on international and global fisheries, but I can't have a knowledge of all these different coastal states. And there was a few surprises like Argentina popping up as having quite high proportions of foreign ownership of its fishing fleet.
Interesting.
And I think that would be kind of a historical, there was a lot of Spanish ownership, for example, there. And probably also access to some of the fish stocks that are in that part of the world for particular companies and fishing fleets. So there was a few surprises like that popped up, and there was a few individual cases. I quite liked looking at individual vessels,
Of course.
I love this high level information, but it's those individual little stories of a vessel that's registered here, flagged there, fishing here. And we did an EU specific policy brief that went into a bit more detail on these individual vessels. We kind of made passports for them and had all these stamps of where they'd gone and fished and how the ownership changed. So I think they're the ones that I find maybe the most surprising is, you're finding links between, as I said, Europe, Russia and the US and West Africa. And it's just, how does that happen? How are these humans involved that have these investments and connections in all these places? And, we're just looking at this data, this kind of paper trail. But obviously these are all, deals or purchases and exchanges that happened. Yeah, I think they're the ones that kind of surprised me the most, with those individual little stories that I'd love to know more about.